Welcome into WagerTalk's Last Call. I'm Meghan Payton. Joined with us today, we've got Rob Veno, Carmine Bianco, Ralph Michaels. This is the show that gets you all involved. So before we bring in any of our guests, any of our amazing handicappers, right now, go on into the comments and ask any questions that you have for up today's games. We've got NBA on this slate. We've got college basketball, NHL, soccer. We're going to break it all down. We're approaching the NBA All-Star we only have three on the slate. Rob Veno is going to help us discuss those as well as college basketball. Any questions you have, make sure you get them in. Carmine's going to break down some NHL and soccer. And then we've got Ralph Michaels to end us with college basketball and NBA. Let's bring in Rob Veno. Rob, thanks for joining us here today. How are you? What's going on?
I am doing good, Megan. How are you tonight? Glad to be here on Last Call. Going to talk a little NBA, little college hoop as we get closer to tip-off time here on a Thursday night.
Right. And hey, we got to give you a shout out, Rob, because you are number one in college basketball at WagerTalk's units of profit, a winning percentage, and ROI. Let us know a little bit about what you have going on at wagertalk.com. Tell us where everyone can find you and what you're promoting.
Well, very quickly for this evening, up and available college basketball selection packages. There are two college plays up and available right now for sale at wagertalk.com. There are also two NBA plays, best bets. I will release one of those here on the show. In college hoop, I'll give you guys my free play for this evening. But again, the college basketball season has treated me pretty well, Megan. 44-21 as of right now, close to 68% winners. I think it's close to 68, 69% units of profit gains. So it's been really good. Last night was a 2-1, and we'll look to continue that this evening.
Good stuff going on for you, Rob. And we're going to get into some college basketball. Reminding the audience who's joining us right now, Rob Veno's here to talk college basketball and NBA. You can start thinking NHL and soccer for Carmine, but now's the time to get in your questions. We've got a top handicapper here with us to break it all down. So if you want some last minute leans or plays, he's your guy right here. Let's talk NBA. Three games on the slate before the All-Star break. We're looking at Bucks Bulls. To me, this one is just absolutely impossible for me to back Chicago. This is a team that has been terrible as of late. 5 straight losses. The Bucks have 11 straight wins. This line has shifted a bit. We're now seeing Bucks -8. It's opened at 8.5. What are you looking at in this one tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to take the easy way out, Megan. I'm going to ignore the side. I'm going to ignore the total, and I'm going to come back to something that was successful last night. That's a player prop with Zach LaVine. Last night, his PRA
There
total
you go.
was over 37.5, and it got there rather easily, got to 55. And of course, when you don't have DeMar DeRozan in the lineup, those shots, those opportunities fall in the lap of Zach LaVine, and that's what happened last night. If you go through the games where DeMar DeRozan has not played this season, you'll find that Zach LaVine has recorded PRA totals 45, 42, 36, two over tonight's number, the 36 very close to tonight's number. There was one game when they played Memphis without DeMar DeRozan, February 7th, and the team only scored 89. And for whatever reason, Zach LaVine only took 13 shots, very low because he's usually around 20 or better in most instances. But they don't have Alex Caruso tonight, which helps the assist portion of this. Maybe he gets a couple extra assists as well. So we're going to try and lean that way. I will say this from a defensive standpoint, what helps Zach LaVine here, and a reason why I played this game, and this is a client release. The two best defensive wing players for Milwaukee are out of this game. Chris Middleton won't play, nor will
Right.
Pat Connaughton. So both 6'6" guys, both the best wing defenders that Milwaukee has. And of course, LaVine probably goes unchecked here. I know Drew Holiday probably draws this assignment. LaVine should be able to get his in this particular instance. The game total is up to 230 now. Odds makers indicate it should be high scoring. If it's going to be high scoring, Chicago's points have to come from somewhere. So give me Zach LaVine. PRA over 37.5 tonight. I think there's a 15-cent price tag with that, but we'll play it.
That's on a player prop. You mentioned total. I want to switch gears here because teasing the NFL has a thought on Washington, Minnesota's total, you can get it right now at 235. We broke this one down on the NBA show just a little bit ago. Are you leaning anyway for this one? 235 seems a bit high for me.
I'll tell you, surprisingly, Megan, the best first quarter over team in the NBA has been the Washington Wizards. Their first quarter
Yeah.
total record, as far as overs is concerned, is number one. The Timberwolves rank at number seven. So it's two very high scoring teams right out of the gate. You could look at a first quarter total in this one. I think the number is low enough. Early, it was 57. It's been pushed to 57 and a half. So if you're interested in full game, you said there was a breakdown done on NBA tip-off. So I'll just take that different approach and say that if you want to shorten the game up, first quarter could be good. Both of these teams lately have averaged over 60 points in the first quarter. So a lot of reasons there to like that number. First half, Washington remains a pretty good scoring team, but Minnesota dips a little bit. So I would say if there's another option to that total, I would look first quarter over.
That's a good call. And then when we were speaking on the NBA tip-off show, which you guys can go and watch after this show, just to give you a little briefing, the under is the trend for the game total. The under has hit 5 in the Wizards' last 7 games on a day of rest. On top of that, Minnesota has an under record of 18-14 at home. Washington leans under on the road with 18-12-1 record. Okay, that is our NBA slate. I know we've got another game on the board. We'll probably go over that one with Ralph Michaels later. I want to get into some college basketball hoops with Rob Veno. You're looking at a game in particular, Arizona, Utah. What are you eyeing in that one?
Yeah, the knee jerk reaction, Megan, is obviously Arizona loses in their last game to Stanford, and now they're at home, and you would expect them to come out fired up. I'm going to play them first half in this game. That's partially the reason. But there's really nice trends on both sides that have developed between these two teams inside Pac 12 play. So let's take a look real quick. Utah, as a road dog inside the Pac 12 against upper tier teams. And by upper tier, I mean teams that are 500 or above. So on the road versus Pac 12 opponents that have a 500 record or better, Utah's 0-3 first half against the spread. They went to UCLA. They were getting 7. They lose by 9. Don't cover there. They go to USC, take 2.5, lose the first half by 5, 0-2. Go to Oregon, take 2.5, lose by 11, 36-25. 0-3 for the Utah Utes against the spread against these upper echelon Pac 12 teams on the road. Now, if I look at Arizona, it's the exact opposite. It's the same 3 opponents, but far better results for Arizona at home in McKale Center. Home against USC, they laid 4.5. They win the first half 41-26 plus 15. Home against UCLA, lay a half a point, win 26-23 first half. Home against Oregon, lay 4.5, win the first half by 15, 50-35. That's a 3-0 against the spread mark for the home side first half against Pac 12 above 500 records, and 0-3 for the road team in that same instance. So to me, that's extremely strong. No reason to stop playing it now. If I look at the matchup in particular, you got to contrast in styles here. Arizona's the number 8 tempo offense in the NCAA ratings right now, according to Ken Palm. And Utah is number 310 in opponents' timed possession taken to get up a shot. Opponents take 18.2 seconds. So Utah likes to get back, make you grind. So I had to find something comparable to Utah. And sure enough, Utah's number 310. Guess who's number 309? That's USC. Arizona's been there, done that. Had USC at home. What they do, they scored 41 points in the first half against USC and won that first half 41-26. It's important because it shows that Arizona can dictate tempo at home against a team that wants to slow them down. They'll speed you up. They're the far better shooting team. Statistically, everything that Utah does well, their assets, Arizona does even better. So you have to like Arizona. Final thing here for me, Megan, was the fact that the game's for second place in the Pac 12. Right now, Arizona holds a 1-game lead. If they win, they'll have a 2-game lead. If they lose, it will be tied, but the tiebreaker would go to Utah because this is the only time they play this year. So I think for Arizona, it's a game of huge importance. I think we've seen by what they've done on the floor this year, they can push the pace, they can dictate the tempo, and certainly the contrasting trends that I went over between these two dictate a play on Arizona minus the 6 first half. I wouldn't argue anybody off a full game because Arizona destroyed those 3 opponents as well full game, but I like them to come out of the shoot quick here, so I'll play first half minus 6.
All right, speaking of first half, we've got a question in here about UCLA. Mr. Veno, what is your opinion on minus 13.5 UCLA? Would you play the first half or the full game UCLA? Just to remind everyone, UCLA is at home taking on Stanford, 13.5 point favorite. That tip off is at 11 p.m. Eastern. Any way that you're going to lean in this one, Rob?
Yeah, I didn't play Megan, but just in thinking it out here, I would probably lean to UCLA full game. Stanford does have enough offensive weaponry to maybe hang around for the first half in case UCLA is disinterested. This is not really an opponent that they would get up for. I think they get Cal on Saturday as well, so there's no real look ahead for UCLA. But I think that their defensive ability probably takes hold or better hold over 40 minutes than it does 20 minutes. Their pace is kind of slow. Remember, it's a Mick Cronin team. So I think you'd probably prefer to play full game rather than first half here if you're going to side with UCLA. The game, it's very possible the game could be close first half and then UCLA could blow them out second half. Defense should take hold over the course of 40 minutes.
Rob Veno, we appreciate your breakdown of college basketball and NBA. For all of our listeners out there, make sure you guys go give him a follow on Twitter. Go check out his plays at wagertalk.com. Reminder, he's #1 in college basketball at WagerTalk, units of profit, winning percentage, and return on investment. Thank you, Rob Veno, for joining us. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, Megan. Glad to be here.
We're going to be bringing in Carmine Bianco in just a minute. So this is the time, if you've had the thought to yourself of like, do I want to bet on some NHL action, maybe some soccer action? Carmine is your guy. Or if you just have general betting questions about betting on those two sports, get in right now in the comments, ask him some questions. He's going to break down a great game going on later today, Devils at Blues. He's got some good thoughts on that one. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's bring in Carmine Bianco. We appreciate you joining us here on Last Call at Wager Talk.
Thanks. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Full slate of NHL games tonight, so I'm looking forward to catching some of them after this show.
And he's been on a 183-133 NHL record since November 1st. And now's the time if you want to get on some NHL soccer action. Carmine's going to be offering the rest of the NHL slash European soccer games $349 off. It was originally $849. You can get it at $549 up at Wager Talk. Will you elaborate on that just a bit, and then we'll break down some of the games you're looking at?
Yeah, I like to do this at the beginning of every new year as we got the last half of the NHL season, and the All-Star break just ended just about 2 weeks ago. So you'll get every single NHL play released, any futures bets, any prop plays. And the NHL prop player shots on goal props are doing fantastic right now. I think #1 at WagerTalk right now with those. But you'll get every play in NHL right through to the Stanley Cup Finals. And as far as soccer goes, all the European soccer leagues are in their second half of their seasons. There's still a half a season of each domestic league because of the World Cup. So there's a lot of soccer until the end of May, and then of course the Champions League, the Europa League, and the Europa Conference League, 3 big tournaments in Europe are presently going on, and they kicked off their knockout stages, which is basically their playoffs, this past Tuesday. So that's in full flight as well too. So there is a ton of action, and it's been a great season thus far. So we're just going to try and keep that going. So it's a great deal, and it's over on my page at Wager Talk.
And the best part about this show is that we're going to get a free pick out of you in the NHL. So we're going to break down the one that you're looking at. That's the New Jersey Devils at St. Louis Blues. You can get right now the jersey at like minus 150 on the money line. The total's at 6.5. Is there an edge or a lean that you have in this NHL matchup?
Yeah, this essentially is like a tale of two teams that are going in opposite directions. Jersey are playing extremely well right now. I think they've gone 11-2 their last 15 games. The Blues did get a win last time out. They caught a Florida team on a back-to-back with their backup goalie who played absolutely horrible. So the Blues got that win, but this is a Blues team that I think at this point here, they're sitting 11th in the West. They've come to terms with the fact that they're not going to make the playoffs. They've got about 29 games left. They're basically in the spoilers role. They're playing out the string. And they highlighted that by trading one of their best players in Tarasenko to the New York Rangers. And I think they're going to continue to sell a couple pieces of this team to compile some draft picks. They're starting their rebuild stage. The Devils are completely different. They're second in the Metro Division. They're third in the East overall, and they're also third in the NHL overall. This is a team that's playing extremely well right now. Now, you might say well, why is the line only 150? Well, there's a couple of factors. The goalie hasn't been yet for the Devils. It likely will be Vanacek in goal tonight because they've got a couple of days off, and then they play a back-to-back. He'll play one of those two. And then the fact that Jack Hughes has been injured, lower body injury, and he's been out even during this win streak of theirs. He's been out of the lineup. But he was back at practice on Tuesday morning, skating in a non-contact jersey. Took part in the skate again today. So he very well could make his return tonight. If he doesn't, it might be just the team holding him out one more game, and he comes back for the next game. Now, when you look at these two teams, they played back on January 5th in New Jersey, and somehow the stats will tell you a different story. But somehow the Blues won that game, upsetting the Devils 5-3 in a game in which New Jersey did start not their backup goalie, but they called one up from the AHL, their minor league team who started the game. They outshot the Blues 39-19 in that game, and they still lose 5-3. It's an outlier of a game, and if the stats, if those numbers don't tell you anything, the stats will. The actual XG numbers for that game were the Devils 4.46 to 2.41 in that game. And on top of that, the high danger chances were 88.89 to 11 for the Devils. They did everything but actually win the game. And I think that came back to the goaltending. It's probably why the price is where it is. But I still think the Devils are the play here. They're the better team here. You're getting them at minus 150. And I think if Hughes was announced to be in the lineup and Vanacek starting in goal, if that's announced an hour ago, this line would be at 165 or 170 in all likelihood. Another bet that I like in this one, Megan, is the team total. You can take New Jersey team total over 3.5 goals at minus 105. And you look at Binnington. Six of his last 7 starts, he's allowed 4 or more goals. 8 of his last 13 starts, he's allowed 4 or more goals. He's not having a great season, and it's a team that's struggling right now. 13 of the last 16 games as a team, they've allowed 3 or more goals, and half of those 4 or more goals. So this is one of the reasons why they are where they are right now, which is a team that's in 11th place in the Western Conference and a team that's not going to make the playoffs. So they're playing the spoiler role, but I think the Devils are the right play tonight along with the team total.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about the trade there, and trade deadline's 2 weeks away. So I think that's a good note as we look at the NHL. The Devils have been one of the stronger teams in the league, sitting at 35-13-5. We've got some more NHL questions coming in from Vegas Degan. He says, Carm, is today a buy-on spot for Montreal? I think he corrected us in the chat. Carolina, not Colorado, is more worried about the games coming up and maybe could sleep on Montreal tonight. What's your thought on this one, Carmine?
I don't. It's just because Carolina just doesn't normally take a night off. And tonight of all nights, I don't think they take they don't take the night off. They are before the game, they are retiring the jersey of one of their goalies, Cam Ward, who they during the lockout season, I think it was in 2004, 2005, the lockout season. Cam Ward went down to the minors, played in the minors, and as a rookie goaltender, and got 40 or 50 games in there. And then the next season, he got to play with the Carolina team when they made their Stanley Cup run. And while he wasn't the starting goalie during the Stanley Cup playoffs, he assumed the starter's role, ended up winning a Stanley Cup and a Stanley Cup with them and a ring, and they're going to retire his jersey tonight. So it is one of those sort of feel good things. It's almost like when Brian Leonard and I always talk about it, and even Dave Koch can talk about, when you can find out when the parents' trip is on for any given team on a road trip, where the mothers come along, all the mothers of the players come and watch the game. The players do not want to disappoint their moms and seem to play better, or their dads and seem to play better. This is another one. It's a night in which they're retiring Cam Ward's jersey. It should be a spirited affair, and and Carolina is miles ahead, a better team than the Montreal Canadiens, and playing at home. So while the line is high, you can't really play it. It's minus 400 or 450. You just can't take those numbers. And even the goal line is too high. You might want to look at the Carolina team total and maybe take their over 3.5 if you can get it at a fair enough price.
Now, I know you mentioned on kind of touched on this, Carmine, but we do have another question coming in regards to that New Jersey St. Louis game. Carmine, would you play New Jersey team total over or over 6.5 against St. Louis? Can you kind of briefly describe what you were previously talking about there?
Yeah, I'd likely stick with the team total. This total opened at 6.5, I believe, on the Wager Talk live lines. I'm just having a quick look at it as we speak. Opened at 6.5 minus 120. It's pretty much stayed there the whole day. It hasn't really moved much. And my thing is this: New Jersey plays so well defensively. They were one of the best teams for the first 30 games of the season in which they allowed the fewest shots on goal. So it is tough to take an over with a team that just doesn't allow a lot of shots on goal. And that's highlighted by the fact in that game, even though they lost that game 5-3, and again, it's an outlier, St. Louis only had 19 shots on goal in that game, but they had the benefit of facing a goalie that was called up from the AHL and obviously wasn't at his best. They're not going to get a lot of shots on goal tonight as well, too. They lose a key piece of their offense in Tarasenko, who's shipped off to the New York Rangers. This could be one of those ones where New Jersey gets there on the team total and it still stays under, where they win a game 4-1 or 5-1. So even 4-2 gets you there, and the total and the under, and the game stays under the total. So I'd venture away from the team total just because the Devils are a very good defensive team.
Carmine, thank you so much for joining us here at Last Call. Reminder to all who are listening, head over to WagerTalk.com right now. You can get the rest of the NHL soccer season, $349 off the original price. It's $549 now. Carmine, we appreciate all of your amazing insight into hockey and soccer. Have a great rest of your night.
Thanks for having me on.
We switch gears back to basketball, NBA, college basketball. Only 3 games on the slate for NBA. Ralph Michaels going to break down those games as well as college basketball. So if you're still listening in the chat, the Pin God is joining us. Get your questions ready. He's going to break down some hoops. Ralph Michaels, thanks for joining us. Ralph, we can't hear you. Press the unmute.
If I unmute my mic, is that a positive? I can then talk and people can hear me. Modern technology.
Yeah,
what do you know?
Help.
Thanks for having me on, Meghan. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Hey, I said this. I was out of town this week, but I promised Saturday the pins are back. I heard you shipped some to my house. He was giving a pin giveaway a couple weeks ago. Ralph Michaels, we appreciate you here. I know you've got a great streak going on, 10-1 run in the NBA and 5% top plays, 49, 27, and 2 run. Explain to us a little bit more about what you have at WagerTalk.com right now.
Well, I had been in a funk for a few weeks. I'm glad I broke out of it. A 14-5 run the last few days. NBA #1 at Wager Talk the last 2 seasons combined. 10-1 run. We're going to talk about a situation, and people that follow me know, the stat daddy and the pen and the trends. But to be honest with you, I think the NBA is the best league to use these trends. The situations when we're not
Sure.
talking about a team trend, but a situation trend seem to hold truer in the NBA. And that's where I've had the success the last few years.
Well, let's go into some NBA action while we have it. 3 games on the slate. We're looking at Washington Wizards at Minnesota Timberwolves. Tip off at 8:10 p.m. Eastern. The Wolves are a 2.5 point favorite. The total's at 235. There's been some debate, Ralph. People are taking the over, people are taking the under. You can kind of find trends that match each. I know you're looking at a total perspective here. So what's your eye on this one?
Well, as you know, most of the times when I'm on the show, I like talking about a game, but also a situation behind the game. So you can use these situations in other settings where they match. This one talks about teams on a road trip before the All Star break. The All Star break is now 8 days away. So, excuse me, the All Star break is now 8 days long. So when you're on the road, for at least a third straight road game with the All Star game on deck. After this game, you're
Right.
traveling home, or or the players are traveling to the All Star festivities, and you're going to have a relaxing week. Well, these road teams, at least a third straight road game, if you're a favorite or a small dog, with at least 6 games, 6 days until your next game. So again, that's prior to the All-Star break. Teams like Washington have only covered 26.1% against the spread. And in that same situation, teams like Washington have gone over 65.2%. Now you have to remember, without Kyle Anthony in there, it's a different defense. Minnesota's defense the
Right.
last 5 games has allowed 52%. The Wizards a little bit better, 45.8. And can I justify that Minnesota's defense is poor? Yes, it's been poor. You allow 124 to Dallas, you allow 128 to Memphis, you allow 118 to Utah, and Denver 146 points. So you're off a 4 game road trip back home. Yes, you're missing your big guy inside, but it's a strong situation for a sample size over 10 years with the volume of number of plays it's had. I think it's worth a look. Minnesota and the over. I'm not a big parlay proponent. Obviously, you're not getting the full odds. But if you want a fun little parlay for tonight, try parlaying both ends of the system with Minnesota and the over, and let's see what happens.
Ralph, I mean, it's hard to find the questions in here because we have like 30 people in the chat right now talking about how they want free pins. How can they get in? So we've got to do another pin giveaway coming up here shortly. Let's switch gears over to college basketball. I know you have a lean in this one. We're looking at Troy at Arkansas State. Arkansas State is a 6.5 point underdog. The total's at 205 and tip off at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Are you looking at totals in this one? Are you looking at sides? Break down this game for us.
Well, this is another system play. Now, this is a stronger best bet. This is actually one of my client releases. So, between the Minnesota and the over in this game, much more confidence in game number 803, Troy minus the points. This is another system that I really like. And when a road team like Troy pulled the upset and won a game by 15 or more points, and they're playing an opponent that lost by 15 or more points, it's been a very strong 67.5% system. And it makes sense. A positive team like Troy, off that upset win, a big upset win. Likely your players didn't have to play to the stretch. You didn't extend minutes because you had such a big lead against a team that got blown out. And then you look at the dynamics. Arkansas State, one of the worst teams in the country since January 1st. If you look at Sun Belt only stats, the Arkansas State offense is number 14 in the Sun Belt. Guess what? There's 14 teams in the conference. The Arkansas State defense is number 14, dead last in the Sun Belt. This Troy team, number 1 in defense, number 7 in offense. They have everything to be motivated for. They've got some players playing some elite defense. They got Phillips, who is a point guard who really stretches the court, puts pressure, causes multiple steals per game. He's had 5+ steals in multiple games already. So I think it's a great spot for Troy to come off that upset win against UL and make a statement tonight.
Well, Troy is on a 3-game win streak, so there's the lead there. Let's get into some questions we've got for you. Ghosted wants to know some college basketball tips. Any tips on how to bet college basketball as we make the push for March? Teams to look out for, or any trends to look out for? Ralph, I know this is like music to your ears because we are not breaking down particular games. We need to know betting as a whole. How do we do this? This is your question.
Well, the thing to look at when you're talking about conferences, make sure you're looking at how teams have performed at home and on the road. There's quite a difference in the conference play, whereas in the non-conference season, you have occasional people playing. I do like looking at the Ken Palm numbers quite a bit because they break down the conference-only rankings for all the categories. Second meetings, it's been a strong play to play on a conference team that lost as a home favorite in the first meeting and is a dog in the second meeting. So you have that revenge. You were the better team. You failed to win. I will say that with one note. On the college basketball show today, Colorado's going into Arizona State tonight, and Colorado lost as a favorite. When I broke down teams' same season revenge in conference action, the Pac 12 was the only conference under 49% where the team with revenge has been a negative play. So don't take what I'm saying today and apply it to Colorado because the Pac 12 is the anomaly in the situation. Also, obviously, injuries at this point. If I find a situation where a point guard gets hurt, I'm looking to fade that team. We're 25, 26, 28 games into the season, and you find that continuity. So when a team has had their starting five, or their starting five has started 9, 10, 11, 12 games in a row, which a lot of teams do at this point, look for those situations where you're losing your point guard for a game or two, or perhaps they're banged up. Lastly, uh, when we get to this last couple weeks of the season, look ahead to who they're playing. If you have a team in the top 3 or 4 of the conference and they're playing a lower echelon team as a big favorite with a big opponent on deck, yes, obviously we always want to look at scheduling situations, but they mean much more as this regular season winds down when we get to conference play, when you're looking at the seedings for those teams.
We got one more question for you coming in from Roger. He says, thinking Maryland slash Purdue is going to land within the threes, I bought 2 full points to take Maryland to a +3.5. Your thoughts on that rule breaker?
You know what? We talked about this game on the college basketball show with Rob and Dwayne Bryant earlier today. And I really did want to get to the window with Maryland. I think this will be one of the most raucous home crowds there is. Purdue only 2-4 ATS on the road this year. They've shot only 43% away from home. Maryland's defense at home has been stifling, 41% defense. But the problem is this: Maryland, one of the smallest teams, their big guys are 6'7" and 6'8". You're going against Zach Edey, 7'4". And because of that mismatch and them not having depth of big guys, you're going to have to double team Edey the entire game. Um, the matchup kept me off the game, but I have no surprise at all here if Maryland handles things in the second half and pulls away with that crowd.
Ralph Michaels, the walking calculator, I believe is what you were called in the comments, and the pin god as well. We appreciate you joining us here on Last Call. Reminder, he's 10-1 in NBA right now. 5% plays, 49, 27, and 2. You've been red hot. Thank you for joining us here at Last Call.
Thanks, Megan.
We're going to bring back the pin on Saturday. I promise. This wraps up our Thursday's edition of WagerTalk's Last Call. We'll see you here next time, Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. Go cash some tickets tonight. Thank you for joining us.